instances of paranormal phenomena have been reported in this desolate place. Events that may reflect the area's tragic past.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Other Dangerous Podcast. I am Ken James, as with me is Jason McKittrick.
Hey, folks.
And also today we have with us a special guest. His name is Mike Murdcok.
Chicken.
Yeah, so we're going to go over two different properties or basic landmarks that we've all had journeys into, and a little bit of history with those in our own right. So it's a double feature of mental institutions.
That's right, a double feature of mental institution trespassing stories.
And both of them are gone now, so the legal ramifications are gone.
Is there a statute of limitations on
there
breaking
probably
into,
is.
There probably is, but we're going to throw caution to the wind here. So, all right. So Mike is going to be my guy who is basically my expert, because as far as anyone I've known from my childhood or going forward, this guy has been in and mapped out, routes in and out more than anyone I have, has done more research into how to get in and out without, facing any of those legal ramifications. But I'm going to go into a little history right now for those who are the uninitiated and don't know about Byberry, well, affectionately known as Byberry, but it is the Philadelphia State Hospital at Byberry. So the Philadelphia State State Hospital at Byberry was a psychiatric hospital in Northeast Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The name of the institution was changed several times during the history of history being variously named Philadelphia State Hospital, Byberry State Hospital, Byberry City Farm, and Philadelphia Hospital for the Mentally Diseased. But it became affectionately known as Byberry by the locals. It was home to people from the mentally challenged to the criminally insane. The primary buildings were constructed in 1907 and in the mid-1920s. The newer buildings were constructed between 1940 and 1953. The facility included 50 buildings such as male and female dormitories, an infirmary, kitchen, laundry, administration, a chapel, and a morgue. The hospital's population grew rapidly, exceeding in capacity. The peak patient population was over 7,000 in 1960. So that's already exceeding, any kind of controllable population within the walls. Several investigations into the conditions of the hospital at various points revealed that the raw sewage line lined the hallways, and patients slept in the halls, and staff mistreated and exploited patients. The institution began as a small work farm for the mentally ill. Soon plans were made to turn the farm into a cottage plan asylum. Construction began on the institution in 1906, and shortly after that, it was established in 1907 as the Byberry Mental Hospital, and originally followed the theory of physician Benjamin Rush. And there's a park right across the street as the Benjamin Rush Park. But he said that mental illness was a disease and could be cured with proper treatment, but that the mentally diseased should be kept away from normal people until they were actually cured. So it was an isolationist style of treatment. So the hospital was turned over to the state in 1936 and was renamed Philadelphia State Hospital at Byberry. The conditions there during the time were poor, with allegations of patient abuse, inhumane treatment, and it was made frequently. The situation came to national attention between 1945 and 1946 when a conscientious objector, Charlie Lord, took convert photos of the institution and the conditions inside while serving as an orderly. So he went in as a covert op there, and Oh man, he took pictures of it and he came out with 36 black and white photos documenting illness, including dozens of naked men huddling together and human excrement lining facility hallways. So shit everywhere.
You sure it wasn't hurtling together?
It could have been hurtling together.
I mean, because that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, well, it's a mental institution.
I just don't, I mean, they wouldn't discount it.
No.
But the photos show a number of people, and it was included with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt at the time, and she eventually ended up supporting plans for mental health reform. And in May of 1946, the photos were published in Life magazine, and it created an uproar. So then, and this is kind of crazy, in 1948, a book, it was called The Shame of the States. Author Albert Dutch described these conditions as, and he quoted, "As I passed through some of Byberry's wards, I'm reminded of the pictures of the Nazi concentration camps. I entered the building swarming with naked humans, herded like cattle, and treated with less concern. Pervaded with a field of odor so heavy, so nauseating, that the stench seemed to have almost a physical existence of its own." So at that point, this place is they're just piling people in there. The treatment is terrible for people, but I'm almost at the end, and I'm sorry for the long drawn out painting of the history, but it goes into the actual conversation. So during the 1960s, the hospital game began a continuous downsizing that would end in enclosure. In the mid-1980s, the hospital came under scrutiny when it was learned that violent crimes were being kept on the hospital's forensic ward. Violent criminals were being kept in the forensic ward. And in 1985, the hospital failed inspection and was accused of misleading the inspection team. So then reports of patients being abused were still rampant. So like at this point, it was well known that the patients were being abused. And one patient had reported that one of his teeth or some of his teeth were pulled out without the use of Novocaine. Now, the team's most recent performing investigation described the conditions as atrocious and irreversible. Though originally supposed to be closed the following year, patient issues delayed the process. So most importantly, 2 released patients were found dead in the Delaware River in 2 successive days after the release. So a day, a patient got released, was found dead in the Delaware River. The next day, the same thing happened. And right there, what are you going to do with that?
It's very common for these places.
Yeah. Where am I at here?
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of what led to the shutdown across, because it wasn't just Byberry that was shut down. You know, when it was shut down, it was a whole, it was across the country. It was a whole nationwide. They were sort of defunded, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, there was that one documentary. It was called "Suffer the Little Children" that was actually about Penhurst. They had another documentary where they went in with full video crews and showed what was going on.
Yeah, that happened at most of the places, and the program that it was known as deinstitutionalization. They made a concerted effort to shut these places down because all these people being thrown into one place just didn't help anybody. They were known as snake pits. And then with the advent of psychiatric medications in the 50s, these places were really rendered, useless.
Obsolete. That was that in like the mid 80s when that happened, somewhere around there?
Yeah, they started closing these places down like across the country in the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. The place that I'm talking about too, same exact situation, and also started with the same kind of thing where someone came in, pretended to be a worker, pretended to be, an employee or something, and then they would take pictures of the things that they saw and exactly what Ken was saying. They likened it to concentration camps.
Right.
So we're getting to the close of this point here. So what you were just saying, so the hospital officially closed in 1990 with the remaining patients and staff being transferred to Norristown State Hospital or local community centers. But the rumors were that they also just let patients out, into the local community, and some still remain in the buildings, and because that's what they knew as home and those were, and we'll get into those, as soon as I'm done with this history. But real quick, so soon after close, everything of value was taken by looters. So begins the adventures of the story of what was still inside, from catacombs to secret graveyards containing gravestones for a single patient who just wouldn't die. We heard so many of those as kids out here because we're right by it. But so the last thing here, just talking about that, is the urban explorers wandered the halls and the extensive underground network that connected each building through tunnels and corridors. By 2000, Byberry saw an explosion of people visiting the abandoned hospital. The internet offered extremely exaggerated stories and legends, as well as tips on gaining access to the abandoned buildings while avoiding police and security. Satanists held ceremonies on the grounds amid reports of dead animals being found. The police were frequent visitors. By 2003, the Philadelphia State Hospital at Byberry's site was a complete and utter ruin. Graffiti covered the building's exterior and interior. Every window was smashed, and anything flammable remaining when the hospital closed was now ashes. The residents of Somerton were now pressuring the city of Philadelphia to end the Byberry problem once and for all. The city responded by sealing the buildings up with plywood and changing security contractors. However, boarded windows just made it easier for trespassers to conceal themselves, Murdcok. But, and here's the end, by July 14, 2006, the main buildings were completely demolished and a few buildings have been repurposed into treatment centers for addiction. The main property is now just a flat field and a neighborhood for 50 plus residents. So that is basically the history of it, and what brings us to you, Mike, here. So these rumors, the stuff that you heard living out here, like what? All right. So what do you first remember hearing about Byberry?
Okay. Well, first I just have to say, in case I ever decide to run for a position on my my homeowner association here, the board at the condo that I live in, that I don't admit to trespassing on any state property at any time. And this is a work of fiction for all intents and purposes, based off of a short story by Ken James called The Flats of Byberry. Right? Is that right? Did I get that?
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So the first that I remember hearing about it was when it was 93. My family had just moved to Bensalem from New Britain, which is out by Doylestown. And we live in a house that's right on the woods, which the woods are the Benjamin Rush State Park. And being a kid in that, living right there, and the other kids I used to play with around the neighborhood there, they used to talk about how there was a nut house in the woods. So I thought that we're living on the outskirts of these woods, and somewhere deep inside is this insane asylum. And they, you would see people coming through riding bikes and stuff like that because it's a state park. But we would always think that they were like, escaped, maniacs that came out of this place in the woods. So it was terrifying to think of. And it was probably years later when I finally asked my dad about the nut house in the woods. And he said, no, it's on the other side of the woods and across the street. It's not actually in the woods. But that's the first I heard of it, and it was pretty terrifying,
Yeah. Jay, anything to add there, buddy?
My first mention or any idea, inkling about this place was when I first met you and your brother. And you guys told me, there's this huge abandoned mental institution up in the outskirts of the city. By a cookie factory or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
So going also.
And I remember driving up there the first time. I was with you and Chris, and we got closer. And I remember the smell of cookies. And but by the time I got there, it was already like heavily patrolled, mostly demolished, and I unfortunately never got to get in there. So the only experiences I really have at the place is vicariously through you and other people, because you would tell me the stories. I saw some of the videos, and I just saw how just insane the place was.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to our next question for Mike. Mike, so all the stories you heard, which obviously would pique a young man, a young adventurous man as yourself, into journeying in. So, like, what led you up to your first like attempt to get in? Your first like, you know, all right, who am I organizing? Who am I bringing? What's going on? We're going in.
It was a while before we got to that point, because, you know, where my dad lived, right on the one side of the woods. After my parents split up, my mom actually wound up buying a house on the other side of the woods, closer to Byberry. And so now I meet this new neighborhood of friends that also know of the same place I've been hearing about since, you know, I was 7 years old. And it was from my mom's house. It was just a walk. I mean, it would have been from my dad's too, but there was the whole aspect of going through the entire woods that was kind of a deterrent when you're 7 years old. But by meeting this new group of friends in Parkwood, and getting to, you know, hear more about it and realizing that where it was and that we drive past it all the time, the proximity of it was that much closer. So it was, at that point, it was, before we got into any kind of organization or anything, we actually were just out walking around. And I remember my one friend had his two of his dogs, and we were just walking the dogs around, and we walked across. We went through the whole industrial park that's right there, and then we wound up walking across the boulevard. And it was kind of just like, you know, it wasn't planned. We just were wandering around, and we wound up. We came across the bridge because the place had there were 27 buildings there on that would be the west side of Roosevelt Boulevard. Long before that, there were another 27 over on the east side of the boulevard as well. A lot of people don't know about. And that whole thing was knocked down probably in the 70s. But so we got to this point on Route 1 where there still is a bridge to this day that goes across. And that bridge, the purpose of that bridge was to connect the two campuses. But now you can just walk up to the bridge on the one side, on the east side of Route 1. And so that's exactly what we did. We walked across the bridge thinking, oh, this is cool. What is this? And we came out on the other side, and we were on actually on the state property at that point. So we just kind of stumbled in, had security guards came up, and we did get up to one of the buildings, and we're just walking around. I remember my friend had his dog walking around right inside this building that was wide open. And the Jeep pulled right up. And we thought we were all in trouble. We didn't run. They just said, "Hey, come here," and they wound up telling us about the asbestos that's in there and told us to never come back. So that was that was how it all started, really.
I remember because when the first time I went in with you, and we were talking about that bridge, and it was like, no, that's the most conspicuous way to get caught, right? Because you're just fucking walking over the boulevard, for anyone to see,
and they're looking for you.
They're looking for you, and I remember. Us trudging through from your mom's house in the neighborhood. We all had our like BB guns, our gallons of water, our boots, and everything. And we were walking through the tall grass in the woods. Oh yeah! And I think it was Spencer started singing, "There must be some kind of way out of here." Like we were in Vietnam, going in there. Yeah. Yeah. No. And
that was later. I mean, that was when we had it all planned out. I mean, after that one time that me and two of my friends stumbled in there, after that, it was actually Mike Ladiansky that he had videos and stuff of him going in with his friends. He was a year older and everything. So after just kind of seeing the place and just getting like when you come down that bridge, it's like the whole bridge is totally covered with all kinds of foliage and everything. You can't, it's not like it's wide open. It's all overgrown and everything. So when you're coming, after you cross the bridge and get over to the Byberry side, and you start coming down and all the trees start to open up, that's really the first, like you said, you're wide open at that point. But it's really interesting the way the way that bridge was and everything. It's just a cool scenery. Obviously, like you said, you can't go that way. But when we went down there and we're out in the wide open and they came and grabbed us and chased us off, that was like, that piqued our interest and everything. But then later, after Mike Ladiansky went and came back with his videos and everything, we got to really see what it actually looked like on the inside, which, that was really what did it. And then, I knew, okay, well, someone's getting in. People are getting in. There's groups of these guys that are going in and taking videos. And, I saw a stage and these ladders and tunnels and all this stuff that, we didn't see. We saw what I just described with the bridge and the building with the door that was open. And that was basically it. So, that was the point where it was like, all right, we got to come up with a plan.
Yeah. And I remember, when the stories of the catacombs, like when I went in with you the first time, me and Tom, and we got to and you can't even call them catacombs. It's basically just, maintenance tunnels.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah. But that was, everyone around here with their fucking rumors and everything.
Yeah.
Kids that don't know the right word for things.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. But I remember when we went down there, it was just flooded, man. It was flooded, and you needed waders or a raft.
Yeah.
To even view anything.
Right.
And Jay, do you have any questions about that kind of stuff that you might have seen where you were at, or?
Well, I'm going to keep that separate for the second section, so as not to confuse. But I would like to encourage anyone who's listening, if you don't know Byberry and you're not familiar with it, pause the show right now and Google Byberry State Mental Hospital, and you need to see pictures of this place, because the condition of this place, you can't even imagine this place was like an operating place at one point. I mean, there's that famous picture of the theater or whatever it is with a giant hole in the roof. It's like amazing.
Yeah, well, that was the first time we went in. We went to like the kitchen and different places, and it was like a bigger group of people. But and me and my buddy Tom, we were just fucking. We were shook, and it wasn't because of ghosts or bums. Like, we just didn't want to get caught by the security and have our moms beat the shit out of us. But so we ended up. Years later, Mike, do you remember how many years later we asked you to bring us back in?
It seemed like an eternity because we were kids, but it was probably only about 2 years. It was probably because I think when we went in that first time, I think it was probably around maybe ninth. We were in ninth grade. It was probably a year or two later.
Yeah, and you so the first time we went in, you led us across the boulevard under the bridge, through Benjamin Rush Park into the other side of the woods, where we got to. You already had it mapped out. I remember you had the maps from the internet. You found them that were all mapped out, and you got us to the one door that this is where we get in.
Yeah.
So we pry open the plywood, we get in, and do you remember that as soon as we got in, we got down the hallway and someone hammered us in?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's you never knew what was going on around there. They're constantly closing the boarding up windows and doors, and then people are ripping them back open again. And I remember another time that we went in there, and there was somebody. We were probably halfway down the one hall. There's one giant hall that was probably 500 yards long, and we were about halfway down, and we saw other guys coming in the same way we did. So I mean, there's just a lot of action going on around there. But I would also encourage anybody that wants to go online and look at this stuff. If you type in Byberry map of the catacombs, you get the map that we used, and it's pretty simple to look at. I'm looking at it right now. It's just got a bunch of real basic graphics, and it's got a little map next to it that's got a little legend next to it it's lettered A through U, and it's got all the names of all the buildings, and you see where all the catacombs go, maintenance tunnels. But it's that was, to me, that's probably the most interesting. Well, one of them. There's so many. It's hard to say which is the most. But yeah, if you take a look at that, that's worth, just so you can get an idea of how you see all these buildings above ground, but then you get to see that they are actually connected underground as well, and it's very fascinating.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of those things that it's just like anytime you have tunnels under shit, and then you add mental institution, you add crazy stories of, everyone in our area, whether it be Northeast Philadelphia, Bensalem, any of the surrounding areas, they would all tell those stories of this is where they would drag the bodies through, and they would take them. Because I remember hearing as a kid about these secret cemeteries that were like, you would take the catacombs, you would find a way out, and there'd be these literal secret cemeteries where, and I put it in the little history point, where they would say, I'm sorry, running out of time. Okay, but they were saying that there was a tombstone for like one patient, like a bunch of times, like he wouldn't die. They had to keep reburying him. But it's like, why would they even keep that? Like these were the rumors that we got. But as far as the auditorium with the stage, the last time when me and Tom wanted to redeem ourselves, and we were like, all right, we want to go back in before it's gone. We found out it's going to be torn down. Let's hit up Murdcok, have him take us back in. This time you had a more simpler approach to get us in, and you brought us in right through that auditorium.
Okay.
And I remember it was like raining like crazy. Right. It was just me, you, and Tom, which was a different thing. And at that point, it was way less scary. I don't know why the rain added because safety, because the element of it conceals your noise. You're not making it, sound waves aren't traveling as much, and the visibility is down a little bit. So that whole kind of thing, it's almost like cover of darkness as well, or it just makes it feel like you're not as visible or audible to the security guys that are driving around. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of those stories, though, I mean, I can tell you why, when it came time to actually preparing and planning and everything, part of the reason that we got into such specifics with self-defense and stuff like that was not, I mean, it's part of the internet stories and everything were part of it, obviously, but what really happened that I saw with my own eyes when the first time that I went back there was after getting caught, where it still wasn't totally like it took a couple trips for the whole plan, the whole masterpiece plan to really be developed. It was little trial and error. So the first time we're caught without, like, we might have looked in the door and looked around and saw there was a big empty building, and then we were whisked out of there by security. So the second time, it was me and Lady Ansky and Spencer, two of my buddies, and Mike knew he had been there before. Like I said, this was after I had seen his video that he went with some of his friends from school, and so I was really deferring completely to him, and he knew how to get in. And the way that we went, was the first way, that through the woods and all, and I can describe that if you want at some point. But when we actually got in there, we first of all, when we ran out into the open, right as we were getting to the door where we had to enter, security came around. So me and Spencer had just gotten in the building, and Lady Ansky was still outside, and the security jeep pulled up. And when they pulled up, we were already in there, so we were fine, but he wasn't, and he ducked behind a bush, and the jeep pulls right up to the bush, and that he was hiding behind. So I could see them. They were so close that we could hear the music that they were listening to. And I could see them in the Jeep and hear them, and I could see the bush that they just pulled right up in front of, and I could see Mike duck down behind the bush, and that was scary. So they drove away. They didn't see us, and he comes in, and our hearts are pounding. It's like, oh man, it's terrifying. We're going to get caught, and like you said, your parents, and you're going to have a record and all that kind of jazz. So we made it, and we got inside, and we had this light that was like, it was a flashlight that was it was huge, man. It was like the size of a, I don't know, basketball. And it had like this tripod thing. You could set it on the ground and it would aim upwards and light up the whole room. So we turned the light on, and dangling in front of my face is a freaking deer head. There is a head of a deer hanging from a string. It was right in front of my face. All right. So that was terrifying. It took us a minute to figure out what that was. Obviously somebody knew that was a popular entrance, so that's where they put their butchered deer head. Then
Wait. I just want to interject you. Like, think about that. Think about someone in that fucking area, like killed a deer, cut its fucking head off, hung it in an entrance, and we're like, yeah, this will be cool for people that come in here.
Right. Exactly. And sorry.
They were just professional decorators, Ken.
That's it.
Those guys now work at Eastern State decorating the sets.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Around the corner from the entrance, the rest of the carcass was, and it was on the ground in the middle of the hallway. Both its back legs were ripped off. The entire torso was cut open. And in the on the wall there was 666 and stuff like that, all kinds of Satan stuff, pentagrams,
like you do.
So that was the first time that we were there without a real serious plan of attack and how to defend ourselves. So without hearing many stories, or even with hearing all the stories, but without taking them into consideration, we had our own experience. We knew that there was somebody out there. They killed the deer with arrows. We know that because we saw a used arrow. So somebody went over there. Somebody's able to shoot us just as easily with the bow and arrow. And then instead of just taking it off and eating it, like, somebody, you could say killing a deer with an arrow is a thing that a lot of people do. But that's not what these people were up to. They brought it into this abandoned building and hung its head in one place and its body in another place and used its blood to decorate Satan stuff. So,
well, was that so? That was that. You think that was the scariest experience you had while in there?
I don't know. It doesn't really. It's hard to say. It's one of them, but that it's also amplified because it's the first time that I was actually inside. So it may seem that way, but there was more,
Well, what besides have you had any paranormal experiences?
No,
while you were in there?
No, nothing like that.
No,
it was really more just an urban exploration kind of thing. We never experienced anything. I've heard lots of stories and stuff like that, and I've heard people say that they had orbs caught on video and stuff like that. But I never.
They would.
I mean,
orbs.
It's easy to think that something like that's going on in there because, for example, some of these hallways I remember were so long. Like I said before, the one was probably 500 yards long, and these would be hallways that would match the catacombs. So you got the tunnels underground, and you have a hallway that's going above it in the same, travels the same path.
Yeah.
And so these hallways were connecting the buildings, so they were huge. And if you had a closed door down at the end of the hallway and you were walking towards that door, all the sound from every single person's footsteps is going to echo off that door way off in the distance. So where you may still be far away from that door and not think it's logical for an echo of your footstep to be coming from there, and you think you hear footsteps or something like that. You know, could be anything. So the building was like acoustically set up for someone to have a paranormal experience of their own, but I didn't.
Well, yeah. Well, when the first time I went in with you, I remember when they hammered us back in. Me and Lydiansky, we were in that one hallway, and it was all going by those like kind of boarded up windows, but you kind of see someone coming by, and we were like standing on glass. And I remember like if you would shift your weight, the glass would move, and me and him were looking at each other, and we were like shifting weight, and we were both like, "You motherfucker, don't fucking shift your weight, you motherfucker!" And we were kind of like laughing about it, but also like scared laughing because like we're just holding our BB rifles and like, you know, and like it's like, and he's like, "You motherfucker!" I'm like, "Don't you?"
And that's the part of the movie where they pause and say, "And it was at this moment that he knew that he fucked up."
Yeah. All right. So last question for you, Mike. Okay. So, all right. So one thing I remember the everyone has that same nightmare after going in the first time. You remember that whole chestnut?
Was that about the kid that comes in and says, "I don't come to your house, you don't come to mine"?
Well, there's things like that, but I remember everyone has this kind of nightmare. That this was the story that when you were just shot in, and you're standing and you're in one of the hallways, and everyone would see something different in this hallway.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well,
can we go back to what he just said? I don't come to your house, you don't come to mine. What is that?
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So there's a story that person goes into Byberry, and they go exploring, and they're walking around, and I guess everything goes normal, and they wind up leaving, and they go to sleep, and at some point in the night they get woken up by a little boy, little dead boy or some little ghost. He says, little dead boy says,
I think we just got our mascot.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Little dead boy.
Him. He says something to that effect that, you know, I don't come into your house, don't come into mine. That's it. He's got all black eyes, I believe.
Geek.
You know,
Nice.
Black-eyed children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all kinds. There's another one about somebody goes. They went into this room that looked totally normal, and they triggered something on the floor, and the room the door closes, and it seals the room off forever, and they never get out. Somehow the story does, but the victim doesn't. So.
The ghosts or whatever entities at Byberry must be like Mickey and Mallory. They got to leave one person left to tell the story. So.
Yeah,
that's it.
Tell the story. Yep. Yeah. Mike, I really appreciate you being with us tonight, man. Thanks for taking your time.
Yeah, man.
One last question: like any lasting like effects or comments that you would have on Byberry, you know, and any just final closing statement on the property itself, your experiences, anything like that?
I mean, I could go on I got stories for days here. The whole lasting effect is really, and there's nothing, there's no way that it's in any way bettering the community. I understand why it's not there anymore, but going and exploring those things, those buildings, is some of the coolest. I mean, there's so much to it. There was so much to it. And, you know, just going and seeing some of these medical devices and equipment that was around since, you know, the 1920s, whatever. It was just so fascinating. And it's just a shame that something like that can't stay around, and I know why it can't, so I understand. But what it really, I guess the spirit of adventure is what really the whole thing left me with, because we would get a group of 10 guys and go in there, and everyone had a different job. Somebody was recording, people were, doing security at the front and the back. And, that's really the final takeaway for me with that whole thing was just how fascinating it is, and how some of these old buildings and complexes like that one, that's the thing. A lot of times you can get one abandoned building, but to have 27 of them and have them all connected underground, that's not something that you get to see every day or get to go into every day. So that's really, it's not anything spooky or even profound, but just, if you get a chance to visit any of these places, you gotta try. You gotta try.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Dude, Mike, that was the perfect segue into our next point. I thank you so much for sharing all this with us, and you were awesome.
Anytime.
And Jay, any final questions for Mike?
Yeah, maybe a small one. I never went to Byberry, but I've explored many abandoned locations, and one of the conclusions I finally came to was that whether or not you believe a place is haunted, a place like this seems to be haunting. It's after you leave the place is when it really starts to get to you, right? You think about it after. Would you agree with that? Did Byberry leave a lasting impression? It was something that would really affect you after you left?
Yeah, I couldn't stop going back. The curiosity, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I was the same way with the place that I'm talking about tonight, Marlborough. Probably went there over 50 times. Yeah, you can't. Once you're laying in bed at night and you think about, let's do this next time, and then you're up all night thinking about it. I absolutely agree that they are very haunting.
Right. Cool.
Mike, thank you so much, man. You're fucking awesome.
A gentleman and a scholar.
And the gentleman and a scholar.
Always happy to come on. Hey, one quick note. I was listening to your I don't know if I think it was your last one, but we were talking about the blimp.
Oh yeah, the Jersey UFO.
Yeah. How did anyone not know that? Here's my thing. I follow all this stuff too, right? And UFOs don't generally have tail lights for the FAA. It had a blinking light on it.
Yeah, but Mike, most people don't even know what the FAA is.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, all right. Well, hey.
All right, buddy. I really appreciate you being on, and hopefully we'll be able to have you back. You'll definitely be back on the episode about my house and things that you witnessed, but we really appreciate it, man.
Hey,
thanks,
anytime.
Mike.
Thank you.
So that was awesome having Mike on talking about that. He really went the extra mile for the kids in the neighborhood and people like us who wanted to get in there and see things. And like even me my first trip in, like I was so worried about stuff. And I want to say that like that maybe there was some paranormal stuff going on, but like I just both times that I went in, it wasn't. It was more scary just being arrested like that.
It's the ever-present threat at those places.
Absolutely. And go.
No, I was just gonna say. I feel like when you go to those places, especially like the first, maybe even second time you go there, you're so preoccupied with, oh my God, this place is terrifying, coupled with, oh, we could get arrested. And then, there also might be bums here that might fucking try to kill me and take my money. So I could see why, if there's an element of where like, oh, I need to be focused to have an experience, or I need to be not so afraid or not so, involved with other things to have an experience. Like I can kind of see that.
Well, absolutely. Because most of it, like from what I was, what I read in the beginning and what he said with being caught the whole time, you're not even really concerned about the quiet. You're not like concerned about like what's this, what's that? Let's just chill. You're like the whole time you were like, is that a fucking guard? Is that a fucking hobo? Is that a fucking? And also you hear stuff, and you're right off the fucking boulevard. You're right off So awesome that he has the pick. Oh, and one thing I want to shout out. I want to thank Rob Flip Henderson from Bar Falls TV for shouting us out on his page. That was pretty awesome. And
Rob, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Another Philly organized or centralized page. So I definitely appreciate that, and I hope you and your followers keep listening.
We hope that.
we hope. But okay, Jay. So we went into Byberry, and this is our double feature of mental institutions.
Or psychiatric hospitals, whatever you want to call them.
Or crazy wards. Or
nut houses.
Nut houses.
Loony bins. So... Cuckoo's nests.
Cuckoo's nests.
Yeah.
All right.
One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Yeah.
Great movie. So for my subject, I want to preface this by saying that, and we kind of touched on this a little bit when we were talking to Mike. This place got its hooks into me for the better part of a decade. And when I say got its hooks into me, I wanted to go back whenever we could. The place was just this enigma, and no matter where we searched, there was always more to see. And kind of culminated in me doing a whole series of paintings about it back in 2013.
Which is how I reconnected with you. That's how I found you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, when we just years go by and things happen. I was like, how am I going to find this motherfucker? Mm-hmm. And I Googled. I was like, I can find this motherfucker. So I Googled and I saw your group of paintings for this place. Mm-hmm. I got you, motherfucker.
So, I'm going to give a brief kind of synopsis of the place. I'm going to retread some of the same territory that Ken did, because just like Byberry, Marlboro was another, one of these failed institutions with, years and years of, horrible conditions and just, crimes committed. But it was built started construction in 1929, opened in 1931. It was built on land that was originally a colonial era farm and had structures that were pre-Revolutionary War that were demolished to build the hospital. So right there, the place had a history, and there's some legends that are tied into that, and we'll go into that later in the legends section. Comprised of nearly 600 acres, and it had these numerous Tudor-style dormitories, also known as cottages, all over the property, as well as a machine shop, a power generating station, hospital, church, and a gym. And it also had its own police station and fire department. So it was a literal self-sufficient town. They even had their own farm where they could grow their own food. These buildings were all connected by a series of underground tunnels, which, just, steam heated tunnels, just like Byberry, with that also had the dubious distinction of being a notorious site for patient suicides. Patient abuse was rampant, and the institution was literally known for how many suicides it had at the place. It was unbelievable. Multiple escape attempts over the years, just like any other place. One I wanted to mention, which is nutty. In 1995, a guy named William Jennings, he was committed to the hospital following the murder of his parents, had been granted grounds privileges, which is insane.
What?
And he was allowed to walk freely, which is, indicative of how just horribly run these places were. And he just walked out of the hospital. He was found a week later at Disney World, walking around, just walking around confused and disoriented. Yeah.
How did he get the money to get in?
Hey, man, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, it's true.
He could have ran down there like Forrest Gump. I don't know. The point is that, he literally went to Disneyland, they scooped him up and brought him back. But patients were not watched well at this place. Escapes were numerous accounts. I went through a bunch of not microfiche because they don't make that anymore, but some old, a bunch of old news clippings, and the amount of times that patients escaped into the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses is crazy. My wife's aunt actually had a story because they owned a restaurant not too far from there. And they said, people would just come in from the mental institution all the time. And they knew who they were because they always had this blank expression on their face. And she had a story and it was really funny. She's like, funny, but kind of,
yeah.
So she was a waitress and it was her father's place. And, she was a waitress there. And she saw the woman sitting there and they knew they had no money and she looked cold. So she's like, I'm going to bring her some food.
Oh.
So she comes over, she says, can I get you anything? She's like, I don't have any money. She said, it's okay, whatever you want. She's like, can I just have a bowl of soup? She's like, sure. Goes over. Must have been an off day. She unfortunately spills the soup on this girl. Piping hot soup. Hold on. Piping hot soup doesn't flinch. Yeah, so. Yeah,
used to it.
I don't know, used to it or just extremely doped up. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, the place was compared to a literal concentration camp. Patient abuse was unbelievable in the place. Numerous homicides, suicides, rapes. It ran the gamut. Yeah. The decision to close the hospital was made in 1995 after an investigation by the then state senator, Richard Cody, where he went undercover at the hospital and found all these
senator?
things.
Wait, the senator?
He was a senator. Yep. He went in. It was like the ultimate undercover boss, right?
Yeah. This dude's fucking legit.
Yep. Goes in, gets hired because he only wanted to go in to show I want to show how easy it is to get a job at one of these places. But he got way more than he bargained for because he gets in and then you can look this up. It's disgusting. He gets in there and one of the first things he sees is the rampant sexual abuse, unbelievable. And one guy he's working with is like, oh man, you're on the midnight shift. Oh, that's great. You could pick whoever you want because they're just in their beds. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah. So after that happened, after he was there, he worked for 6 days in the place. He came out and just boom, just dropped it. And it eventually led to the closure of the place 5 years later, which is wow. That's not immediate, but
if you're that guy, if you're that senator, and you see that shit, if you're not coming in hot after that,
yeah, it was immediate. But this has happened with a lot of these places. Like you mentioned before at Byberry, there's the famous that expose done by Geraldo Rivera of Willowbrook Hospital in Staten Island. And then they did the same
with the little
thing.
children with Penhurst.
And then there was Penhurst. This is the only way you get people to notice this kind of stuff because, these people were, effectively just tucked away at these places because people didn't want to deal with them. So, closed in 1998 and then demolished in 2015. And another feature of the place is it has, across the street from the main property is a patient cemetery. Has 924 graves with these little cement markers that are marked only by numbers. It's still there today. You can go see it. There's a little monument right next to it where it has the names with the corresponding numbers, but it is just in this field, and it's one of the saddest things you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So that in a nutshell is Marlboro. This is located in Marlboro, New Jersey. It's no longer there now. They're in the process of finishing the demolition and trying to turn it into a park or something. I don't know, but
whatever they're going to do with it,
Exactly. So the place itself, having sat for so long as an abandoned mental institution, numerous and countless people went in. Same kind of situation as Byberry. People came in, vandalized the place. did all sorts of crazy things in there. But because it was open so long and it sat for so long, there were multiple legends that popped up around the place, and one of the big ones that people tell you about is Old Man Sam. Now, people love to tell the story because it's got kind of an interesting way that goes about it. So Sam, they say that Sam was the original owner of the property that Marlboro was eventually built on. Okay. So the state offered to purchase the land, but Sam refused. So through the power of eminent domain, the state seized the property, and then Sam was just homeless. So because of this, he goes insane and ends up becoming a patient there at Marlboro. Okay. So Sam worked there for years in their slaughterhouse. All right. Which they had on site because it was a self-sufficient town. He worked in the slaughterhouse until one day he just decided to kill 2 of the orderlies, and then he just escaped. Never captured. And then over the years, people have claimed that to have seen him, wandering about the property. And then as years went on, because this was essentially, I guess this was back in the 40s, his ghost is known as the Watcher in the Woods. People see him peeping from the tree line, and it's the main ghost that people see there. They call him the Watcher in the Woods.
That like the 40s, man. Like back then, the concepts that must have just been instilled in people, where it's just like,
oh, absolutely.
Oh, they're raping them.
No,
they're raping them over there. They're over there. It's they're doing it over there. They're not doing it over here, so we're okay.
Pretty much. And once they're labeled as these patients and as these indigents, it's like, well, they're less than human, so we can do what we want with them.
Yep.
And it's awful. One of the other and this one got me because I'd never heard this until researching for this episode. So when they first started to clear the land, when they were going to build the place in 1929, they had these old structures that were, pre-Revolutionary War. So some suggestions that I was seeing that some of these were from 1690, craziness. So this is an old farm. And apparently when they were demolishing these houses, they found the graves of slaves that were not taken care of, and they were just kind of like, okay, we can't deal with this, and they just rolled right over them. This is in the legends category.
Wait. Mm-hmm. They just paved right over them?
Well, I think that this is 1929. They're in there, they're trying to build this place. It's not even close to modern, around this time where and I think that if you found something like that and they're trying to build this place and people are just like, nope, got to get it done. I can absolutely see people like that and in that position be like, oh God, just cover it over, almost like a poltergeist kind of situation, just get rid of them. And now I put this in the legends category because I can't find any documentation on it, but there's something to that story. It's like, wow, that seems somewhat plausible. And then, where would there be documentation on that, right? If that was the situation, they're like, oh God, but that puts a sinister angle on the property right from the beginning. You know what I mean? So
yes, I do.
So, just hearing that was kind of unsettling, and I had to include that to just put a further shadow over the property itself. Also, there's the slaughterhouse itself, which was a separate building across the street from the main area where all the patient buildings were, and this is also where the whole Sam story, the slaughterhouse where he worked at, but just allegedly,
hearing that there's a slaughterhouse near a mental facility is
a little weird, but they were self-contained towns. They had everything that they needed, so there was no, they didn't need any outside help. But they had, and everything was manned by patients. I mean, yeah, they had supervisors, but everything was done by patients. So yeah, man.
Just not the best practices.
I think they were, I think that they were really just trying to give them a version of what the real world was, right? It's their slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
It's not one that's really going to be dependent.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're in there trying to do some normal thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let me learn. Let me pick up a trade while I'm in here. Let me pick up some kind of skill.
An semblance of normalcy and routine. Okay. Right. Yeah, I get that.
So that was this separate building, which is also not there anymore. And that became another focus of, urban legends. And there was you count them. There was like, Sam's there and he'll kill you if you do this one thing, or, you say this, you bring some pig's blood and smear it on here. He'll come out and, rip your car apart. Like, that kind of stuff. So that was, one of the big legends there. And then other from that, folks would constantly report shadow people all around the property.
Okay.
So, so I mean, it's an abandoned mental institution. It's creepy to begin with, and it's got.
You said the size of the place itself, like that's it's almost hard to fathom, even like someone like you or anyone going in and being able to explore it in its entirety. Yeah,
I mean, I'll give you a picture because I went in there at least 50 times. So 600 acres is huge, right? Yeah. Now this is placed, this is along a somewhat main highway, but it's set back a good, 300 yards, something like that, in woods. And the campus, I guess, what they called it, is back there. Over the times of going through, we would have to go in different ways. There was like the main entrance, but we would go to this side entrance. There was this little really old church that was next to it. It was a colonial era church, and had all these weird graves. That was another stop on the on the tour every time. So we would go back behind there, and there's this chain link fence that we would squeeze through. We would go back that way, and there's all these other buildings back there. It was like there was doctors' quarters, nurses' quarters, just some other buildings that were just be like, fuck, that's scary. And you would just be like, all right, we'll check that out next time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the human suffering that would have been in any of these places, and I'm not going to go ahead and assume the treatment. I mean, the stories are out there, but
you don't have to assume anything. It was just as bad as any place you could imagine. It was what they call these places a snake pit. They just dropped people in here. People that even belonged together.
Jesus Christ, man.
So, and there's merit in what you're saying too, because you go to this place, you get behind the fence, you get up, and I say you go there, you see the nurse cottages, you see the doctor's houses, but then you get up to one of the main hospital buildings, and you just stand there, and it's dead quiet, and you can just feel something, I mean, it has like a life to it. Like you're looking at these buildings and like, it's almost like they have a pulse or a breath, and you just stand there and you're just like, there's just something not right here. And beyond it being just scary, it was disturbing. Like you would just be like, this is not just a building. Like there's something left here, and through exploring these buildings multiple times and going into the underground tunnels that they had multiple times, and going with groups of friends and other people that that I knew that wanted to come in there, we've had multiple experiences in there, and I mean multiple voices, full body apparitions, you name it, shadow people. Nightmares after you go home. Those are the best part.
Well, that's what I was asking Mike about too when we were talking about Byberry, because I remember I had one and I was at the end of the hallway. and there was just this thing charging at me, but it was a nightmare. It wasn't like, an experience, but I remember just like, you're walking past these just doorways, and who even knows what the fucking rooms were, because there's some patient rooms, this and that, just big openings with like open spaces, and you're in there, and you're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're constantly, once you get down into the depths of these rooms too, like in these different places, and you're like, I'm not even worried about security anymore, because they're not coming in. They're not going to,
right.
They're not going to risk this kind of stuff. But you get there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's something that kind of you have on your side. Once you know that the regular security that was patrolling the place, that their orders are not to get out of their car and not to come into the building, just to be almost like a visual deterrent. It's like, if I just stay in the building, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And except for the times that the cops actually chase you and you have to jump over the fence, and it's just the whole thing. Yes, speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, there you
are. So I have a couple. I have a couple encounters from the place that I'll keep it short, because to try to encapsulate this into a podcast episode is just not feasible. This place, this place affected me. Like I would be scared about this place. Like I'd be thinking about it, not there, and I'd just be like, ooh, like something was left in the fabric of that place. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Like you go there, and it leaves it on you in some way, and then when you leave, it stays on you. It's almost like a scent that it leaves on you or something. I can't really describe it, but it leaves its taint on you or something. I can't.
I'd like to give you a rating, but last time I did that on it leaves its scent on you. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, or a stain or something. Yeah. I'm sure other people have said it a little more articulately, but so here's my favorite story to tell from this place. One of the numerous times that we went in, it was a group of us. My wife Christina was with us, a couple other friends, my good friend Brian, and a few other people.
I love that Christina went. I'm sorry. I love that Christina went.
She went a few times. Shout out to Christina. Hey, Christina. She went a few times, and I got to give it to her because I know she was terrified. The whole time she just had like a stick in her hand. Like I was like, is that stick for the ghosts? She's like, it makes me feel better. And we had a good time.
Shit, man. When we were by, I had a fucking flashlight attached to a pellet gun. I had like a fucking baseball bat on my hip. I know, I get it.
Yeah. So we're going in, and the big thing that people want to see is, let's go see inside the buildings. Let's see these underground tunnels, and whatever other kind of crazy stuff we can see, because there's a lot of belongings still left there. I mean, you name it, it was still there. There was some clothes left there. Yeah. I have a Halloween blow mold that I found in the basement there.
Wait, for real? Mm-hmm. You found a Halloween blow mold in the basement there?
Yeah, they had a section that was all holiday decorations, and one of the things that was in there was a blow mold. I still have it. It's downstairs.
Awesome. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I'll put that on the Facebook page. I'll show you which one that is. So we're going and we're exploring, and a couple of these buildings have basements, sub-basements, sub-sub-basements, and sub-sub-sub-basements. Don't know what they were for. Don't know what they connected to, but they wanted to see them. So I was like, okay, let's check this out. So, you're kind of given a tour. So you're like, all right, I want this place to look awesome to people who've never been here. So let's.
A funny thing that just happened.
What's that?
While you were talking, one of my wife's paintings just flew off the fucking wall.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. Wow.
Dude.
Yeah, right in front of me.
We captured it live, folks.
Yeah, I wish it was my camera was facing that, but I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there.
Hey, it's fine. I know, and I'm just a guy here telling a story, but there have been times we've left the place and we're sitting at a restaurant afterwards, or we would go to the diner or something afterwards, and kind of laugh about it afterwards, and just weird shit would happen.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, does stuff follow you? I don't know. But like that weird feeling, it would take a while for it to like kind of like dissipate. Anyway, so we go into this building. It's one of the numerous buildings. We go into these basements and sub basements. We get down to the first level. Now these rooms, when we got to this building, were it's just bare concrete. It's like metal steps, rusty metal steps, and then it's just these rooms that are just bare concrete rooms, nothing in there. And so we're looking around, nothing in there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we go down to the sub basement. Now, when we got down to the sub basement, there was a little bit of water that was, I guess, had gathered in there. And that's all that was in these rooms. It's just like it would be a hallway, a room on either side of each other, then another set of rooms on either side of each other, and then a stairwell. So we go down the sub basement, and then there's the sub basement. So I'm like, all right, well, let's check this place out. And at this point, what would it be like 60 feet underground? Like, yeah. But it's concrete. Okay. It's these concrete rooms. So once again, we look around, nothing in these rooms. And then we get to the stairwell at the end where it would have gone down to the sub basement. And probably the fourth step down is just murky water. So it was completely whatever kind of sump pump system that they had backed up, whatever. I was like, well, I guess we ain't going down there. And I don't want to be by this this rusty stairwell that goes into murky water. This is not. Yeah. Let's go. Hey, it's scary, right, guys? You saw it. All right, let's get the fuck out of here. So turn around. We're going back up the stairs. I think we get up to right before we get back up to like the regular basement, and from the sub basement, I think, because I can only tell by the distance of what I could tell from with my ears, it sounded as though somebody kicked a metal garbage can down a flight of steps. A metal garbage can down a flight of steps. Now, there was nothing in these rooms, right? Nothing. Bare concrete, nothing. I was like, what was that? It didn't take nothing we fucking ran because that means that something in this empty room had made this noise, or something came up those fucking watery stairs. I was like, let's get the fuck out of here.
I just want to say too, that like seeing your face saying that, like they're not going to get to see it when you were like what the, yeah, I can see it on your face. The lasting effect.
Because when something like that happens, your brain goes a mile a minute, and you're just like, what? You're trying to figure out, okay, what could that have been? What could that have been? And it's just like, okay, there was nothing in those rooms. The only thing that was like a variable here is, okay, those steps that went into murky water, or fucking demons coming to kill me. I don't know. So we book it, man. We fly up those steps, fly out the building, and because now that that fight or flight response has been triggered, we're like, fuck it, let's just run back to the fucking car. Christina's trucking, my buddy Darren's trucking. He like Olympic style, like I couldn't believe it. So we're going through this field which separated like the whole campus from where our car was parked. We're running through this field, and at the same time, because I saw the reactions that everybody had, something whispered in all of our ears either the word go or no. Because I heard no.
Wait. Yep. Whoa,
at the same time, because we all flipped out and looked around. In our ear, heard the word. I heard no. Christina thought maybe it was like go or something. And Darren also said like, hey, it sounded like no or something. But we're running and we're kind of in line, and I can see in front of me because I was in the back. Because I was kind of like taking up the rear because that sounded weird. Yeah. I was taking the rear guard, and I was in the back, and I'm probably also the slowest. Yeah. So I'm, I'm running.
Wait. Yeah. So you're all trucking,
right?
Okay.
I can see everyone in front of me.
Everyone's in front of you. So Christina and your buddy Dan are in front of you. Darren, and you all hear something whisper in your ears individually,
but at the same exact moment said the same thing, but it was as if the person was standing right next to my ear.
Standing next to all of your fucking ears.
That we were next to our ears on our bodies that are running full fucking speed.
Jesus.
And I knew it all happened. Excuse me. And I knew it all happened because I could see everyone in front of me, and we all did this like look back and forth real quick, like, what the fuck was that? Like, almost like, oh, a bug flew in my ear kind of thing. Like, did you hear that?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. It said like no or go or I was like, go. And we finished taking off. And and now, as we heard that, as we're running out, after we heard that, now this was a completely still night. There was no wind. There was no clouds. There was no rain. It sounded like a giant tree fell over behind us. After that happened, this loud crashing, like, you know, think of the biggest tree you've ever seen, or one of those logger shows where they finally get that big tree over and that unbelievable loud crack. And I'm running, but looking while I'm running and trying to see what the fuck is going on.
So you're fucking.
Yeah. And I'm trying to see what's going on, and I hear this noise. We all hear this noise, and then there was like these booms that were happening at the same time, like these low level. Like I was like, all right, something wants us out of here. I was like, let's go. We got to the car, I turned it on, I fucking lit those tires up, and we got the fuck out of there. Like, and dude, I was like 23, maybe 24. We were fucking scared. Like, we looked at each other. We were like. What the fuck was that? And you know, I mean, it didn't really deter me too much because I think I was there for the next month. But it was distinct because it was, you know, you had the noise that happened in the sub basement, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, I can't tell you what that noise was. The sound of a metal garbage can being knocked down a flight of stairs. That's what it sounded like to me. We run. Then we hear voices at the same time, all right next to our ear at the same time as we're running out. And then that sound of that like tree crashing. Well,
so from you know, the professional paranormal investigator that I am, from what I'm understanding of the story, it's definitely, you know, one, we can cancel out residual.
Yep.
We can definitely say intelligent. And then we can also say malicious, because
I mean, it was a distinct feeling. Like you hear those things and you're already running. You're gonna be like, let's just get the fuck out of there. But it was this distinct feeling like we were not wanted there.
And then you hear it. You hear in your ear.
It was a whisper. It was literally like this. It was literally like this. Go.
And all three of you had the same experience.
And I saw it happen with my own eyes. And then we like reconcurred at the end because I think we went somewhere to eat afterwards. It was like, or a bar or something. Now, I want to preface all that with, we were not drinking before that. No drugs, no nothing. We went out there because I even stressed the fact, I was like, look, you don't want to go out here drunk because you need your wits about you because you could fall. You could, I mean, there's rebar, there's exposed rebar in this one area, you know, like you don't want to go there under any of the influence of anything because you need your wits about you because if you need to run, like we did have to.
Yeah, if you got a bucket.
Yeah. So no substances whatsoever. So it was, you know, it's like we went there looking for an experience and we got pretty much exactly what we were looking for. But there wasn't like I can't go and say, oh, this happened, but I sit back. Well, it could have been. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Just here for the booze, I guess.
Just here for the booze. But all right, so the takeaway for me, like, all right, so we're doing this double feature of you know, mental institutions that have, you know, are steeped in history or just horrible treatment of people. So on my end, I'm next to a boulevard. I've gone in twice. I have friends that have gone in multiple times. I've heard so many of the rumors. Don't get much, but like, all right, let me get the fuck out of here and not get arrested. You go in to your end, and not only are you getting bangs, booms, shit's falling the fuck over.
I've got more.
oh no, you're gonna go into it, but you and the other two with you are running, and individually, in your ears, a whisper. That's fucking creepy, dude.
Yeah, and it was almost, in hindsight, you know, after we were talking about it, it was like, well, what would you do if you wanted to scare somebody? Well, you go right up into their ear and say, go.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it sounded like. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, we were already running, and it was like, go, 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 go. Like, Dude, I think it even made that Scooby-Doo noise when we started running. That that right here.
Yeah. All right. Dude, if I'm already booking it, if I'm already scared, I'm booking it. And I hear a whisper in my ear. There'd be a trail, a Duke. Like,
well, that's kind of like why I mentioned, like, it was the fight or flight response. It was just like the only appropriate response right now is not to shit my pants or turn around and try to fight something that apparently just isn't even there. It was just, let's just get out of here.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that was the most intense, I would say, paranormal experience I had there, because we were chased out by the cops a few times, and that was like, holy shit, they're gonna get me. But
your buddy with his knee injury or whatever that happened, I remember that one.
Oh my God, I hesitate to tell that story because I don't know if he'll listen to this, because he's gonna sound like a complete moron.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna tell that story.
Yeah, don't tell that story. We know. I just wanted to bring up that I know about that one.
Also, I mean, these are just. All right, so these are just a couple little tidbits I'm just going to throw in there. So we used to go in these underground tunnels because they were awesome, right? There's these underground tunnels that connect these buildings, and it's like, oh, this is insane. They're essentially just access tunnels. They were just used to, so patients and doctors could get in between the buildings during winter months and not have a problem. Also used to, bring supplies back and forth. Yeah. All the buildings were connected by these tunnels.
And now you're the Goonies. Like, you're, young Indiana Jones now. Like, that's the allure.
Honestly, it felt like we were just like playing Silent Hill the whole time we were there. Like, it was like, I don't have any bullets. I have a rusty pipe. I think I have a healing herb. I don't know. And there's Pyramid Head coming out.
Yeah.
So we used to go in these tunnels, explore them, and it was a grand old time. It's all these crazy pipes down there. There were gurneys down there. It was like wet and dank. And we used to dare each other. We used to turn the flashlights off and just walk through them, pitch black, just because just being dudes.
Yeah. Fucking dudes. Like when we were in Eastern State. Fucking do it. I'll fucking do it. Yeah, full Philadelphia. I'll fucking do it.
Yeah, we were just being, being fucking dumb meatheads, right? So fast forward to last night when I'm doing research to just, flesh out this episode, I found out that tidbit of information that, those tunnels, that's where lots of the suicides happened. And I just had this moment of just like, I was like, we were walking in those tunnels in pitch black, and multiple suicides occurred in those tunnels. I was sitting on the couch last night, and that's when I texted you. I was like, dude, I'm sitting here, and like the hair is just standing on end. I'm just sitting here. I was like, ugh.
Bro. I'm gonna wait to tell my wife about what happened. Like, literally, I'm telling you right now. So your painting, that we have, there's another one of yours, and then 3 of hers. Okay. They're all lined up.
Yep.
They're on top of them. Her one of the Joker was the one that fell. And they're all. I was
going to ask, was it the Joker one?
It was the Joker one. And they are. It's not like a matter. Like, we're in a new apartment. Everything's
Is that an
level.
Adjoining wall?
Dude, the adjoining wall is fucking 1.5 feet thick. It's all concrete. I put up I put up shelves today. It's funny you ask. I put up shelves today with 3-inch screws. They only got in till they hit the brick or the cement, and there was like a quarter of an inch left. No. It fell while we were talking about this. First time. Like, we've been busy this whole time, haven't at any moment of any time to sit and think.
Now you're slowing down, man. Now you're starting to know the energy of the place, as they say.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell her. I can't. No, dude, it literally, and it wasn't just like it fell. It was like, flap, it came out. It's like, dude, I'm looking down. It's like, it's over by me. And that's like fucking 6 feet away. All right.
I don't know, man.
All right, Other Dangerous Podcast.
Well, just 2 more little tidbits I just want to throw in here just for this. A few other times that we were there, and this was also told by other people, shadow people, just everywhere, like in rooms, outside, peeking out from behind trees. They were everywhere there. And skeptical guy is going to say, which is usually me, but skeptical guy is going to say, oh, you just, you're in a place, your imagination's running wild, and now you're seeing the shadows of people. But like, I mean, like full on people that are just made of blackness, just walking. Like, you would just see them. And then after going there so many times, you just like accepted it. You're just like, oh, that happens here. And it just was. And then aside from that, there's the cemetery that I was telling you about, which is the patient cemetery, which is all these just little cement markers with numbers on them. And you would just hear the distinct sound of like whispering in the distance. It was just what it was there. Yeah. So
Whispering in the distance sounds like a fucking horror novel. That place could be a horror series. I mean, I can only tell you so much through this, and if you've ever been to a place like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've never been to a place like this, you just have to experience it. You come to this place and you stand still for a little while and kind of like let it seep in a little bit, and you're just like, wow, and you just feel the horror of the place. I don't even know how to describe it. Well, one thing I did want to talk to you about, especially with this episode, because we're doing this double feature of places that horrible torment has happened, with individuals. But so you got all these ghost shows, and God, like some of these psychics, they come up with these stories like they're writing a novel. Like they come up, they're like, no, this person, and they come up with all these different crazy shadow creatures, and they make them up. It's like they're character developers for Mortal Kombat. Like,
are you suggesting that someone like our hero Peter James may have been making things up when he was going to these places? I'm coming through.
No, I'm going to suggest like modern ones that like the veil, like they're like, fuck it. Like it's not even like him who was kind of respectful, who would like kind of like, no, he would do his research and then come in and like give a very interesting story. These new ones, man, they're like if you look at the show The Dead Files on fucking,
can't watch that show.
Oh my god, dude! I just put on Travel Channel. Dude, the chick's like the detective was like, all right, here's what you're gonna listen. What you got to do to get rid of these ghosts affecting your family, and she's like, yes, you're gonna need to bring in a voodoo priest, and she's got like she's grinding her teeth because she's like totally on like Adderall or something, and she's like, yes, you're gonna have to bring in a voodoo priestess. Yeah, bring in a voodoo priestess, and you're also gonna have to bring in clergymen, and you're gonna like all these crazy. Look, stop making up stories about like making your own. You're LARPing.
Ghost LARPing.
Like, look, I was in Byberry. No, I didn't have any paranormal experiences, but I'm sure some are out there residually. You had plenty in the place you were, mostly residual. Neither one of us dare to assume the personality of said specter or said entity, let alone say, I have the feel they're showing themselves to me, and here is their entire fucking backstory. And they rip.
He's scrolling on the screen of her phone, and this person, hold on, died here 6 years ago. Like,
yeah, it drives me nuts because, like, look, me and you, we've been to plenty of historical places. We have, and we both agree upon the fact that there are other dangers out there. There are things out there that you can't definitively put a finger on. But anytime these people, especially these psychics who Houdini would have fucking uppercutted like fucking Sub-Zero into the pit, any of these people that just go like, no, here is who is talking to me. And I'm having these moments of, no, it's a woman. And then, it's a shadow figure that they have killed people. I got to throw my hands up.
Well, I mean, I really don't, I don't have any belief in any psychic ability like that. And if you're on a show if you're on a show and you're a psychic, you might as well just be like, well, turn this off. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
well, the biggest thing too that like I've been seeing recently, it's just like have a disclaimer saying this is entertainment.
Well, they didn't used to have to do things like that because people weren't so absorbed with nonsense, and there's so much of it out there that how do you separate the two? But I don't know. I mean, psychics, not for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Me
if
neither.
a psychic wanted to come out there and, try to, test the waters and, I don't know, try to prove something, that's on them. But, I'm not a psychic and we went out there and we experienced stuff many times. And hey, there were times we went there and, it was very subdued and the energy would feel different. Like we would go there and it would not be so spooky, but then we would go there sometimes and it would be like ramped up. Like we would get there and be like, oh yeah. Like you just knew something, like there was like electricity in the air. Like you knew something was going to happen and it would. So.
Yeah. I just like, I know this stuff exists, but I hate when someone's trying to give their like the definitive take on it. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I don't think there can be any definitive take on this because there's something, first of all, you have to define what exists means. Then you also have to define, reality is different for every human being because reality is the way that you perceive it. So what might be true and what might be experienced by one person is not going to be the same thing as the other person, whether it's paranormal or not. So someone coming in there and saying, oh, well, this is a free floating specter. It was a, 5 class, it's like, trying to classify them like Pokemon. It's just not going to happen. So
I took it off a little. I took it off course a little bit there, but I feel like it kind of goes towards these kind of places, and honestly, they're rampant with residual haunting. I don't think I don't want to be like one of those people that say, "Oh, it's demonic possession, demonic." No, it's like if anything's there, it's the horrors that humans have done to other humans. It's
almost like a manifestation of all those bad feelings and all those things that occurred. It's somehow, I think, we mention this in every episode. Something happens to the environment.
Yep.
Whatever it is, it leaves some kind of lasting impression. And because so many things happen there, it's just left there. And I haven't been back since like 2014, I want to say. it's still like the property, quote unquote, is still there. There's 2 buildings left, which was like the power generating station and like this machine shop or whatever, and maybe like 1 or 2 other buildings. And I kind of want to go back one more time just to see if it's any different. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, did demolishing those buildings change the energy of that place? Or are you going to go there and it's still going to be like, oh, it's still very strange here, you know?
Yeah.
But
well, next time you come up, like literally, I am a minute from where Byberry was. So
I've been past it many times. I've never been inside, but
yeah,
I've driven past it a bunch of times, and
well, they still have their, all right. So there's still a couple buildings left on the one side and the one they just repurposed now, they're making for more, I guess, patients or recovery people. But the original fence, the original fencing is still there. And me and you, next time you come up, we're going to go walk and we're going to go touch and feel that raw iron that was there. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, all right, I think this is going to wrap up this episode of our double feature of psychiatric haunted hospitals. Jay, do you have anything to add as a final statement?
I mean, other than that, if you live near a place that still exists and still stands and you can still get into, and this stuff is of interest to you, don't wait, because like they're knocking all these places down. If you still live near one and you haven't been inside or whatever, just go visit it, like experience it. Cause the experiences I had at Marlboro are, I tell that, whenever I become a new friend with somebody, it's, not long after that I tell them the story that I told on this podcast about running out of that place, because, till this, to this day, I don't know what happened. I can't explain it. So if you're one of those experience junkies, kind of like I am, I'd say definitely get in there and try to, at least explore and try to check it out, because, these places are a place to have a unique experience. Word,
man. I guess my closing statement would be, if you're going to call something a catacomb, you better find skeletons. Because yeah, call them maintenance tunnels. Don't call them catacombs.
Yeah, but maintenance tunnels doesn't sound spooky. Catacombs are like. Yeah. Especially if you don't even know what the fuck that word means, which is probably a lot of people. Oh, there's catacombs in there. What the what?
Well,
is that like a creature? What's a catacomb? Is that like honeycombs? What the?
Are there cats there? But no, I mean, hey, man. If I'm not finding the wall of skulls, as you said in our prior episodes, I'm not calling it a catacomb. I'm calling it a maintenance tunnel.
What if you see a flaming skull?
If I see a flaming skull and it passes me 3 times and then finally lands in my chest, hopefully I'm waking up and it's a dream. And also, it's bullshit. I mean, wait, what? I'm sorry.
Oh,
what? What?
I heard whispers. It was weird.
Yeah. All right, so this is going to wrap up episode 3 of Other Dangerous Podcasts. Jay, what do we got going on for episode 4?
All right, Ken. Episode 4 is going to focus on ghosts at sea. Those spooky stories of phantom ghost ships, haunted lighthouses, the glimpsed lady walking along the beach waiting for her lost man out at sea. We're going to cover all that kind of great spooky stuff for the next episode.
Yeah, some of my favorites. All right, guys, for Other Dangerous Podcasts, my name is Ken.
And I'm Jay.
And as always, have a spooky evening. Thank you for listening to Other Dangers Podcasts. Have you had a run-in with the Other Dangers? You can reach us at otherdangerouspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to have a short discussion about the Other Dangers, you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Other Dangers Podcast. We are now streaming on iTunes Podcasts, Amazon, Google, and many other streaming services. We are also available on YouTube. And please, after listening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you the Other Dangers.